As sports history fans, we often reminisce about the legends. Willis Reed limping on to the NBA Finals court, Curt Schilling's bloody sock, Kerry Strug's courageous dismount, and so many more. These moments often define sports history. But what about the countless injuries that did not become legends, or careers that were derailed due to inadequate care? That's where this episode's sponsor comes in. Introducing to you, ILP Sports Consultants, your trusted sports injury partner, available 24/7. Brian Maelli at ILP Sports Consultants has over 20 years of experience in the orthopedic and sports medicine industry, and he has worked with athletes across the gamut, from youth to amateurs, professionals, in almost every sport played in the United States of America, accommodating athletes at every stage of their career. This adaptability ensures that ILP services are perfectly tailored to your skill level, no matter where you are in your athletic journey. With ILP, you are in control. Choose the steps that matter most to you. Diagnosis, treatment plan, recovery, or the whole journey. ILP services are tailored to your unique needs. Rushing for care is a common pitfall, leading to future problems. ILP Sports Consultants helps you make the right decisions, ensuring that you receive timely and safe care. And here's the bonus. Brian hosts the Injured List podcast, sharing insights and athlete stories you won't want to miss. Whether you're a concerned parent or grandparent, or an athlete yourself seeking guidance, ILP Sports Consultants is your beacon of hope in sports injury management. Visit ILPsports.com today. That's the letters ILPsports.com. ILP Sports Consultants, where your well-being is the priority and your recovery is the mission. Choose ILP Sports Consultants for a healthier sports journey, helping you get back in the game the smart way.
Blog Talk Radio.
Today we'll go back in time to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score, which were being victored after 60 minutes of battling on the gridiron. Tonight, we'll explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats Football History and its memorabilia on the Gridiron Greats Publishing and Broadcasting Network, in conjunction with Swick Enterprises, and we're live from the Southport, North Carolina home of Gridiron Greats Magazine. I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats Magazine is the only publication in America which focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 150-plus years of football history and memorabilia. And you can find us on the web at Gridiron Greats Magazine. I'd like to introduce my co-host. He's a senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia historian, specializing in pre-World War II items, in particular Red Grange, and also Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Largent. He hails from Portland, Oregon, Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be back, Captain. Good to be back.
And I could say this, it's good to be back home after going to the National for a very, very long convention, all 5 days. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Thank you for the updates. It was really, it always makes me feel good when I can't make a natty. when friends like you are sending me pictures of just what's going on. I got a few pictures, of the VFC dinner that Jeff put on. Just really, it's always fun just to get good updates from friends.
It was definitely interesting, and I got to say this: I honestly thought, and we're gonna do a complete show on the National and my report on it over the next few weeks, but just a couple real quick points I want to make about the Nationals. I have never seen in my life at a show the sheer volume of slabbed cards like I saw at this show. And I never saw so many young people, older people, with these little, for lack of a better term, briefcases where they put all their cards in. So besides their backpacks, they're walking up and down the aisles with these little card carriers. And naturally, when they get to the table, where do you put the card carrier? You know what I mean? So they either plop it on the display case or they're going to put it on the ground, so on and so forth. I was just fascinated watching everybody do this. I mean, it was just truly amazing to me to see. And again, this was my first show in 3 years, so it's been a while. I just cannot believe, and I'm just going to leave it at this. I just cannot believe the explosion in graded cards. It's just mind-boggling to me, truly mind-boggling. Yeah.
So what you're saying is there just wasn't a lot of raw loose cards. It was just more slabbed, and I heard from somebody else there was a lot of people just walking around with their shiny graded stuff, just saying I want $5,000 for that. Just having the price in mind, just going from booth to booth.
Exactly. That's basically what was going on. I mean, I had two customers that came to the table. They were very pleased to see some old vintage football raw, in VGX, EX condition that they could help fill their sets with. And what I found very interesting, I pretty much sold off all my ungraded raw football that I brought. I mean, I didn't bring a lot, but I did bring some. And two collectors in particular bought most of them. They were very happy helping to finish their sets. And then they would ask, any other dealers here that have raw cards? And I know there were a couple of dealers I sent them to. And again, there were just a handful of raw card dealers there. Everything was shiny, graded 12s or whatever they are. And I was just shocked by it. Let me put it that way. I was shocked by it.
Huh.
But in any
how did you do? How did you do at the Natty? Did you get a lot of new subscribers? How was activity?
Well, it was very busy with the exception of Sunday. And Sunday I really thought it was going to be a lot busier than what it was. Sunday I basically packed up around 3 o'clock. Most of the show was pretty much broken down by that time, and I got out of there at 4 o'clock. I passed out a numerous amount of the last issue of GG, number 77. And I don't comment on it until a full 4 weeks pass, and then I will give you the updates as far as how many new subscribers we got, so on and so forth.
Okay.
So it was very, very interesting because a lot of the football people I know who are subscribers are, and they would reintroduce themselves or whatever. But a lot of the new people that I gave it to, they were kind of surprised to see the magazine, never heard of it, blah, 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 the whole bit. So we'll see what happens. I really believe becoming rarer and rarer in sports memorabilia. And the one thing I did notice was I had a lot of people asking me about tickets, if I had any tickets for sale. And I did have some, but they were not the tickets they were looking for. So it was interesting, very interesting.
Huh.
But we had the national issue, and it was very well received. And I'm going to throw the magazine to you with one comment. The one article we got the most comments on was why I collect, and that was basically from subscribers and some of the new people who read the magazine at Atlantic City. So I'll hand off to you.
Yeah, first of all,
a
tip of the hat to Jared for the cover. there with Roger Staubach. Just, I love it. I really enjoy those because I still have the Steve Largent cover, the artwork, the original artwork Jared did from that I have hanging in my office. Your super collector for Brian Adams was amazing. He's shown us his collection before. Obviously, a very passionate collector when it comes to, Cowboys Ring of Honor players. Very high-end collector. I loved his. Your opening, landing page there on the, on the main page where it's just all of his stuff, just all of his binders opened up and just amazing. It's one thing us collectors are that we share a commonality with it. We're passionate about our things, but yeah, I'll admit, when you first, the Why I Collect article was amazing. And when you first reached out to me and asked, hey, would you mind writing that? I was like, yeah. It's I don't know how you write. It'd be interesting to find what people's writing style is, but, I tend to write something, email it to myself, let it sit, do it again, and just kind of, noodle on it a few times. And I just told my kids, your sense of smell is the strongest, and you associate certain things, certain smells with certain memories. And I literally mentioned to them, like, check this out. I keep a coffee mug full of striped NFL pencils on my desk. And every once in a while, probably every couple of weeks, I'll pull a few out and smell them. And they smell like I have them right here. You can hear them because I'm doing the show in my office. They smell like my childhood. And it's the same with wax packs. Wax packs, excuse me. You hold it up to your woofer, and man, the bubble gum in there, it just brings back a flood of memories of childhood, of ripping wax, of popping the gum in your mouth and smacking and chewing it loudly while you're going, oh no, Terry Bradshaw, check it out. I don't know. And I loved reading everybody else's Why I Collect because everybody took it very seriously, which I really enjoyed, and really dug deep and got into the why. I don't know. I really liked it. It was well done, and I liked that you contributed as well. I really liked your story. I knew a lot of it. Your 65 tops, your 65 Philly, but it was still good to read yours. It was just really cool. Jared's was amazing. All of us share the same thread, isn't it? We got into it about the same time. You've got a couple years on us and walk away from it and came back to it at some point. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's just really good. And a very good topic. What made you think of this as a topic?
Well, I'm always concerned in the back of my mind, where's the hobby going? And again, I'm going to talk a little bit about that with the National. But where is it going? Are we collecting? What are we doing? Are we just buying, selling commodities and plastic now, or are we? What are we actually doing in the hobby? Why do we collect? And as somebody who's collected all my life, and I mentioned all the different things that I collect, and I still collect different things. I still have my coin collection. I still have my milk bottle collection. I still love postcards. Why do we collect? What is the thread that's common to all of us? We enjoy it.
Yeah.
We look at it as relaxation. I don't care what anyone says. We look at it as something fun. It's not a job. It's a way to relieve stress. It's a way to enjoy yourself, learn about something you don't know about. We all enjoy football, so we enjoy that niche of collecting these different items in football, and that's what makes the hobby great. And I want to see that spark again with the younger people that, it's okay if you don't have a PSA 10 Tom Brady card. If you have a raw Tom Brady card in your hand, it's okay. That's a nice card. Enjoy it, type of thing. So I think that's why I wanted to express it, and I wanted to make sure that article was seen by the biggest readership we have, which is traditionally National, because I publish a lot of extra issues at the National, and we give them out, sell them at discounted rates, so on and so forth. So hopefully something turns from it, returns from it in the long run, and that's what my hope is with regards to the hobby. And again, you're asking me. That was probably one of the more difficult articles I've written over the years, because I started and stopped it several times, and I just couldn't figure out which way I was going to go. And then I just said, well, I'm just going to write the way I feel. I enjoy collecting. I thoroughly enjoy collecting. If you met my sister, she thoroughly enjoys collecting, even though her collections are, very much different than mine. We grew up in a collecting family. My father collected coins literally up to a month before he passed away. So it's embedded in, especially my generation, more so than the younger generations. We like things. We enjoy seeing stuff on the wall. We like hanging up prints, paintings, things of that nature. Objects. We enjoy it. We enjoy looking at them, and we don't like the bareness. We like libraries. I'm doing the show here in my man cave office here. I have a large football library I'm just staring at right now. And that to me is part of a home. And we have a library downstairs too. But somebody today, everything's done online, so on and so forth. I still like reading a physical book. I still like reading a physical newspaper type of thing. So that's basically why I suggested it, and why I wrote what I wrote, and I really think it was very well received. And it's gonna be tough. It's going to be tough to top it, but, I got a couple other ideas down the road with regards to it. So anyways, long story short, I got a lot of comments on it, which is very, very nice. I'm glad people appreciated it, and especially our older readers understood what I was saying with regards to collecting and how we, why we collected things, so on and so forth. Martin Jacobs is a classic example. He's in his late 70s now. Yeah. He's still collecting. He's still got an incredible collection. That's a cool thing. That's really cool. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned. All right, our special guest is here, and I don't want to keep him waiting any longer, and I want to introduce him to our listening audience. He was on just a few weeks ago, talking about the changes with Jim Thorpe and his Olympic reinstatement. He is, again, well known to our listeners and our readers of Gridiron Greats magazine. He has an incredible collection of Jim Thorpe cards and memorabilia. And he hails from Oklahoma. And again, I'd like to welcome to our show Mike Driscoll. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Captain, and Joe. Appreciate you having me back on, and kind of starting to feel like a regular.
You'll be co-hosting in no time, Mike.
After the last show, I told Joe we got to get you back on to finish the story, because it was we ran out of time. I also had a couple of listeners asking me, "Are you going to come back on to talk about your collection, so on and so forth?" So that's why you're back on now. I had the national break there in between, so I couldn't get you on right away afterwards. So let's give it a couple of weeks to digest everything and go forward. So I'm gonna lead off. I want you to pick up where you left off before and what you wanted to continue to discuss to finish the story on the Olympics.
Okay, sounds great. Before I get going, I thought I'd convey a little story that you might find interesting, especially Joe. In 1931, in a small community outside of Oklahoma City, there was a fairly new high school that couldn't get enough boys to participate in the game of football in order to field a team at the school. In fact, girls basketball was the big sport of the school. So school officials wanted to field a football team so badly that they reached out to a certain person to come be their football coach, and he accepted, and he was able to jumpstart the football program. The school was Putnam City High School. Coach was Jim Thorpe. And
what year was
Joe,
that?
who's the most famous alumnus of Putnam City High School.
Putnam City High School? Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Grange? It's Grange, isn't it?
No, Steve Largent is the most
oh, my God.
famous alumnus of Putnam City High School, and Jim Thorpe is the one who jump-started the football program.
Oh, my gosh, in Oklahoma. Never mind, Grange's high school. Never mind, I got it mixed up with Grange. Boy, you put me on the spot. That's incredible. What year was that Thorpe did that?
That was 1931.
Incredible.
The school had started in 1919 and couldn't field a football team. So
you're going to laugh at this, Bob. I actually have a Steve Largent yearbook from that. I should know that. I guess I'm not used to being put on the spot by our guests. So
I thought you'd like that.
When did Largent graduate high school? So like 1970, 71? Around that time?
I believe 72.
72. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I believe. I would have to confirm that.
Yeah.
But, you're going to laugh at us, guys. I'm a Largent fan, but I'm not like that guy who's got a Largent tattoo on my forearm.
He actually graduated with a pro basketball player by the name of Alvin Adams and a pro baseball player by the name of Bob Shirley. They were all in the same graduating class out of Putnam City High School.
What the hell was in the water?
Really? But I digress there. Like I say, I'll start with what probably led to the story breaking that led to the events, the quick 10 days from breaking of the story of Thorpe being disqualified and his Olympic glory lost. Then I'll visit quickly about why it probably happened so fast, and then lastly, quickly wrap it up. So, in starting with what many thought led to reporter Roy Johnson, he's the one who broke the story, and finding out about Thorpe playing, of course, which ultimately led to Thorpe's disqualification. I have a newspaper article, August 9th, 1912, that reports that Thorpe had already signed to pitch for Pittsburgh Pirates, and the club was expecting him to report in early spring. Now, this was August 1912, but instead, Thorpe had gone back to Carlisle in fall 1912 to play football, and which obviously he retained his amateur status, and Pittsburgh felt he was now hedging on joining the team. So a Pittsburgh Pirates scout tipped off Roy Johnson. Now, this theory was substantiated by Pop Warner and Christy Mathewson. Warner said publicly that Thorpe's outing was due to a carefully planned plot by the Pirates to force Thorpe to turn pro. Christy Mathewson agreed in an article that he wrote, pointing out that a Pittsburgh Pirates scout was responsible for revealing that Thorpe had played baseball in order for Thorpe to have to report to the team, and it would also give valuable advertising to the scout. So you've got a disgruntled and organization that felt like Thorpe should be reporting to their organization, yet he's still enrolled at Carlisle.
Huh.
So, wow.
You and first of all, Mike, there's not many topics that require us to have, a part one and a part two. But, I mean, this is such a good topic. I mean, it's something that's near and dear to my heart, obviously.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's, you mentioned in the last go that, Thorpe was not mad. He forgave the journalist who did this.
Yeah.
That's okay. So, But just now you're saying
he just felt like he was doing his job.
Yeah, but they might have done this to try and force him to actually show up.
Yes, and that's what the speculation was, that it would expose him as a pro instead of amateur, so he'd have to give up his amateur status, force him to turn pro. The only pro sport at the time is baseball, and so he'd have to be forced to report to them. So, the 10-day timeline, January 22nd, the story broke. 3 days later, on the 25th, he was charged. And even before an investigation, Sullivan declared that day that if Thorpe was found guilty, the trophies will be returned and his records erased from the books. Now, that's on the 25th. Lord. The very next day, now you're talking about all the way from Pennsylvania, and trying to get information out of the South. The very next day, hard evidence surfaced of Thorpe playing in Carolina League, and a signed letter is received by Sullivan from Warner, which included Thorpe's admission of playing pro baseball. This is the one that Gus Welch, under oath during the congressional investigation, swore it was written by Warner and Carlisle Superintendent Friedman. So in just one day before an investigation started, the following day, they're receiving hard evidence, supposedly, and a letter from Thorpe admitting. It leads us into, kind of a conspiracy situation that many of us think of.
Obviously very premeditated to have that kind of information locked and loaded.
Thank you. Very good. Yeah. Very good. A lot of people thought it was premeditated. On the 28th, January 28th, AAU declared Thorpe a professional. On the 30th, Warner and others took Thorpe's trophies and Olympic medals and all other medals he had won from 1909 to the present and turned them over to Sullivan. On February 1, he's signing with the Giants. So in 10 days from the day the story broke to being accused, convicted, and stripped of Olympic glory, it begs the question, why the hasty, quick action? Did Sullivan and Warner know about him playing baseball and hastily get it all done so that further investigation into the matter and their associations, which were financial empires, be thwarted? Because both were known to be micromanagers of their athletes.
Yeah.
So for many, it was hard to believe that they didn't know where and what Jim was doing during every athletic season that came along. And, at the very least, when Albert Exendine found Thorpe playing pro baseball in Oklahoma for the Anadarko champions, when Warner sent him to Oklahoma to try to talk Thorpe into going back to Carlisle in 1911. That alone should have prevented Warner from allowing Thorpe to sign his amateur card and sending it to Sullivan, because that's where Albert Exendine found him. He was playing pro baseball in Oklahoma.
Well, and you've mentioned before, everybody did this. It's just Thorpe did it under his real name.
Yes. No, a quick work of the situation would have also helped hide the fact that Sullivan was circumventing the Swedish Olympic Committee, who actually had the authority to adjudicate any challenge to the Olympic event. It was not Sullivan's job. Plus, we all know the time limit was passed.
Yeah, you found the rule book, stuffed away.
We know that the Swedish Olympic Committee was in disbelief at this point. So doing it quickly, people felt it was.
How do you know that? Mike, how do you know that? I've actually never even thought about that. What did the Swedes? What did King Gustav, who said you're the greatest athlete in the world? What did the king think?
They sent correspondence to the IOC that the rules disallowed, and that they had already had a meeting, and that according to the rules, the time limit was up, and the awards and prizes were, and that they could not do anything about it, and that they felt like they were being forced upon, and that the Swedish Olympic Committee has nothing to do with any of this. This is the AAU. There's correspondence between the Swedish Olympic Committee and the IOC stating this specifically. Yeah.
So the Swedish Olympic Committee stated it's past the time frame. You can't do this.
Yep.
And basically that got ignored. This was pushed through. Thorpe got railroaded down. The people who should have stuck up for him, Pop Warner, et cetera, the people who should have been there to support him basically threw their hands up and sold him down the river. This. What do you think of Pop Warner? I think you and I touched on this in the last show, but what's your opinion of Pop Warner? When I started finding this stuff out, years ago, it's like, well, what the hell? Here's a white man in power who could stand up for a Native American, who's practically, called him his son a few times. I mean, he could have, one person could have stopped this. It's kind of like a riot, and he didn't. And that forever scarred Pop Warner to me. And then hearing you talk about it just kind of brought up all the memories. I'm like, God, this guy was a bastard.
Well, let's put it this way. Within a year, he was Carlisle. And his very last job, his very last football coaching job, at the game against Pitt, he was talking to the Pitt coaches and administration about a job there.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And yes, and he took the job. So you tell me what kind of person that is.
Okay.
Again, it does not take away from his contribution to the game of football in any way whatsoever. But he knew he was leaving, and so he's talking to Pitt officials about a job there. And that's where he ended up.
I've never followed much on Pop Warner, so I actually didn't know that he only lasted another year at Carlisle. That's interesting.
Yes. Yep.
What's your opinion of him? I just said I think the guy's a bastard. He's an evil conspirator in this. I'm not a fan. What's your thoughts?
I think if Warner would have gone to Sullivan and said, listen, we're not going to do this. I am not a part of it. I support Thorpe. Everybody else supports Thorpe. And I know stuff on you. You know stuff on me. We're going to stand behind Thorpe or I'm exposing everything. I think Sullivan would have caved. But I think they both saved their own hides. And I don't have much to think about nicely about people who do that kind of things, saving their own hide and throwing other people to the wolves. Too short to act like that.
So the one person who could have stopped the whole thing, whose entire career, the only reason we know the name Pop Warner to this day is because of Jim Thorpe at Carlisle. So the person who put Pop Warner on the map, the person who made Pop Warner the football genius that he supposedly was, did not defend the person who put him there. When he needed him the most. It's interesting. Did you know much of this, Bob?
I know bits and pieces of it. I'm fascinated by the complete story. And to what you were referring to about Pop Warner in New Haven, Connecticut area, Pop Warner is like a legend.
Yes.
You know, Yale football, so on and so forth. And you know, as the years went on, and I started, you know, reading more about Thorpe and what happened and the tie-in with Warner and so on and so forth, I was saying to myself, I don't think this guy was really legitimate, nor was he, you know, looking out for Thorpe's best interest. I think Mike explained it the best way, that, you know, he was probably trying to support him in his own way, but everything just unraveled on them because they had so much on each other, and therefore it created the problem. But man, oh man, I mean, it really did. I'm just floored by how quickly everything transpired for Thorpe, especially with the baseball stuff. And as Mike mentioned, 10-day time frame where everything collapsed on it. I mean, it's shocking to me, just truly shocking. It's so sad.
Yeah, the timeline.
Yeah. I mean, for a man of that kind of athletic proportions, you know, a true genius of an athlete as far as his skills were concerned, and then he gets treated like that. It's so pathetic. It's so sad. It's not even funny. It really isn't. It really isn't. And Mike, I'm very thankful. You know, you have all this information that has been made public, so that you know, readers and listeners can make their own determinations, you know, of what really happened and why did it take so long for everything to, you know, to get rectified. It's crazy, truly crazy,
for sure. So
unbelievable.
Kind of wrapping it up. Sullivan, you know, strips Thorpe of his amateur status and informed the Swedish Olympic Committee and IOC that Thorpe had forfeited his prizes, and they were on their way. Official Olympic report, it states that although the IOC and Swedish Olympic Committee knew that there was no basis for challenging the result at this point, that the USAAU, headed by Sullivan, had presented them with an already decided and irreversible case, so they had no choice but to accept the decision. That should have been turned. That should have been reversed 100 years ago.
Yeah.
If they knew all that.
Yeah.
And so, at the time, it looked to most that Sullivan, Warner, and Friedman had years earlier made a pact to deny allegations if it ever surfaced, yet concocted a plan to start a motion if it ever did. And that's what you were saying, Joe. You know, everything happened so fast and neat, it surely looked like a well-planned cover-up. And like I said before, within 1 year, due to all this, there's a lot of backlash at Carlisle. Warner was gone from Carlisle, and Sullivan was dead. Which
I didn't know Sullivan.
Yeah, he was in a train crash in Indiana a year later and died from the injuries. And his papers and records were quickly destroyed after his death. So that further kind of makes people think, you know, there's some kind of a cover-up that went on.
So check this out, Mike. I mean, talk about trajectories of lives. I mean, you know, Thorpe, you know, football hero, he went on to do things. But, I mean, this kind of stopped a trajectory of his life. Instead of being, you know, Olympic gold medalist, I mean, he was still a football hero. But, I mean, one of the greatest tragedies, a picture I have of Jim Thorpe digging ditches in Los Angeles in 1931. So, you know, 19 years after the Olympics, Thorpe's digging ditches. I mean, 10 years after this, he's the president of the NFL, but he's the president of the NFL as a figurehead. I mean, we know that. Jim Thorpe didn't know much about running the NFL. He was there to legitimize the NFL because he was a name. Hey, what was he? 2-3 years. Then he played for the Oorang Indians. This changed Jim Thorpe's life. I mean, it kind of took the wind out of his sails. To be honest, because you wrote a really good article about. Jim Thorpe took the Olympics seriously. Everything else he didn't practice for, he didn't prepare for, but he took the Olympics seriously. He wanted to ask the woman he loved to marry him afterwards. So he went there. Right. He lost weight. There's a postcard you have we're going to get to in a little bit of him throwing the javelin where he is ripped. I mean, you don't see people back then, because people didn't go work out and stuff. So, so to prepare for this, to win it, not just to win it, but to crush the competition, to get the gold, to have the king of Sweden say you're the greatest athlete in the world, and then to have all that pulled out from under him in a very short time afterwards, that took the wind out of his sails. That sent his life on a different trajectory.
Yes, and that is a perfect lead into me just finishing this up because of how he handled all this. Last time we touched about how gracious Thorpe conducted himself towards others involved for the rest of his life, like not exposing other amateurs who he knew had played baseball, nor Warner, Sullivan, or Friedman if they indeed knew. And only in private moments did he reveal his hurt feelings. I'll close with two situations that exemplify how Thorpe handled himself in what surely had to have been a life-changing experience, which he just said, and it most certainly was. When a reporter asked him at his Giants contract signing about the prizes sent back, Jim said, "There's nothing more to say about that. The quicker it is dropped, the more I will be pleased. It's something I no longer want to talk about." And then shortly afterwards, Thorpe's supporters took up a collection to replace all of his awards. But he rejected the money and asked that the money be given to charity. Now, my personal feeling is that only those who are inherently honest and truthful in their heart are going to respond to adversity like that. So here we are 110 years later. It's a long time for the family to wait to receive vindication, but for the Thorpe family, it finally did, and can be more than happy. Just like I said last time, it's a perfect ending 110 years later for them.
A little too late, but you do what you can. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but did Thorpe have an alcohol problem before all of this? Because we know that he had an alcohol problem.
Sure.
Did this lead him to that, or
no? He already had it.
Okay.
There's documentation of him all the way back in Oklahoma, having an alcoholic problem. His dad was a bootlegger.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And so he grew up around it, and he got in trouble many times, drunk after ball games where Warner and he would get in arguments about it. So he already had it.
That's too bad. What was his dad's name? Hiram?
Yes, Hiram.
Hiram? Okay.
Yep.
So
it's a shame.
We got about 17 minutes left, so any more final thoughts, Mike, to wrap it up, and then let's get into a few pieces he picked up since the last time you were on the air.
Well, I think that pretty much sums it up. It's a happy ending. It's long overdue.
Yep.
And
I think the only remaining mystery is where are those original gold medals?
Yeah.
We think Pop went to his house and picked them up and took them somewhere. Did they ever make it back to Sweden? Did they, where did they end up? That'd be the only thing.
Yeah. No, I don't
Great.
think we'll ever know.
Yeah.
Really don't.
All right, let's switch gears. What have you picked up, Mike, since the last time you were on the show? Now, there's a couple of things I know you really want to talk about.
Yeah.
So let's move into that.
Goodness. I know the biggest one that I could talk 2 days on was a 4-item collection from a Thorpe Carlisle O-ring collector.
Oh, wow.
And I posted that on the CFC site, a year or so ago. And, man, there was a bunch of items in that. And several correspondences between the O-ring ball club and the NFL I've added to the collection, and lots of photos and memorabilia, postcards. At the U.S. All-Arounds, when he got back from the Olympics, I've been able to pick up 3 photos. I already had one, but I was able to pick up 3 more original photos. One where he was throwing the javelin, and where he was running the 1,500 meters in the decathlon in the all-around.
Yep.
We called it the all-around. The Olympics called it the decathlon. And then one where he was pole vaulting. And these are all Bain photos. So Bain must have been there in person taking a lot of photos.
That picture that you took of him throwing the javelin where it says Thorpe throwing, I just noticed that they misspelled it. Thorpe throwing javelin. They must have been on it. That's him. That's him at the tryouts, correct?
The all-around. He on September 2nd, 1912. There in the fall, after he got back from the Olympics, they had the all-around championships at Celtic Park, and so that's of him at the all-arounds. You can tell between whether he's at the all-arounds or at the Olympics, because at the Olympics he has his Olympic jersey on.
Yeah.
At the all-around,
yeah,
he has his Carlisle. So even if you can't see the background, you can tell by what jersey and shorts he's wearing.
Interesting. But that picture, the first of the photo of the track team at Carlisle with Thorpe in the back row. He was having a good hair day that day. But what a great picture. What year is that
what I
one?
understand, there's only 2 of those that have surfaced. One is in the Cumberland County Historical Society, and one's in my museum here where I'm sitting.
Nice. What year is that, do you think?
1911.
Wow.
Real good, solid photo of him.
Yeah, and look at that. Look at the difference in his muscle structure from that, 1911, to a year later him throwing the javelin.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell Thorpe took the Olympics seriously. So
yes.
You didn't mention that collection you picked up. That must have been recently.
No, that was a little over a year ago.
And then that photo of Jim Thorpe, the baseball review, of 1917 of him with that smile on his face, and this is an interesting subject. But I mean, from 1917, where he's a skinny, physically fit young man. 5 years later, he's playing baseball, and he literally looks middle-aged.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of hard wear, in 5 years.
Yep. Yeah, that's a movie still of a movie that no longer exists. That old film just disintegrated, But I've seen I think Chance and Cobb maybe was also in that film. I've seen the same kind of movie promo photo from that film.
Yeah,
that's from an actual film.
Like 10 years ago, I sent some photos in to get validated. There's a guy who validates photos. Like one of them was, you've seen it. I have a picture of Thorpe on the ship on his way to the Olympics, and you knew what the ship was. It was pretty cool. I'd never known the name of the ship until you mentioned it. But they validated, the guy used this photo from 1917 of Thorpe playing baseball to validate that photo. And in his description, he's like, over people's life, a lot of things change, but their ears never change. And he started pointing out Ford's earlobes, and stuff like that as the reason, he was able to validate the photo. It was pretty interesting.
Here's a thought. He's in a baseball uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 1912. He's not with the Giants. Where did this baseball uniform come from? Is this from the East Carolina League that he kept?
Oh. Yeah, he was out of the PCL. That was, what year was PCL?
That was 1922. But this was 1912 Olympics.
Yeah.
Where did this baseball uniform he's wearing on the ship to the Olympics originate from? Is this left over from when he played in the East Carolina League?
Huh, good point.
Never thought about that until about a week ago. Could that actually be from when he played, which cost him his amateur status?
Look at mine. You caught me sitting at my desk. Let me look at my photo that I have of that. That's a very good question. I never even thought about that. And I still haven't gotten that photo validated because I just never, I never sent it in. I just still have the letter sitting at my desk. One of these days
I'm looking at one now. It's he's in a baseball uniform, baseball pants and socks and
Brown Brothers Type 2 Another one of them on the boat that I have a copy of. I'm sure you're the same. I have this, Jim Thorpe folder, and whenever somebody throws something fascinating up, I throw it in the folder. And at some point, I have a hard time discerning what's my stuff and what somebody else's. I just clicked on a photo of Thorpe on a boat. I'm like, oh, okay, there's mine. Looks like the same thing. He's wearing kind of the same stuff, same hat, same hat clutch in his hand, same outfit. It's like they just caught him at a different angle. He messed his hair. I'll send this to you.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. My photo has I was in the Navy. They call them Type Z windows, which are the heavy rated ones with gasket. The type of window it has to be locked down to keep the ship waterproof or flood proof. But he's got the same hat on, the same uniform on, same sweater on in both photos. And the copy of one I have is a Type 2 authentic circa 1930s. Says Brown Brothers for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Sure why. Interesting. I'll send you both copies when Bob puts this link up in the VFC. Just interesting. You have an amazing collection. Mike, seriously, it's impressive, and you managed to focus on one amazing moment in history, with Jim Thorpe, and it's important. I dig it. I tip my hat to you.
Well, thank you. I guess the only real good card I've picked up is, I think I sent a photo of it, is SGC 8.5 grade of the 55 All-American card. I think I sent a photo of that. It's a
photo or the actual card?
It looks real good.
A photo of it or the actual card?
course, I like to get Tawanama's stuff also, when especially if Thorpe and Tawanama's together, and picked up a postcard of Thorpe and Tawanama in dress clothes. It was a photo op for the 1912 Olympics. I think I sent a photo of it.
Yeah, I'm going through them all.
Most recently, that one where he was in kicking pose at a new ring game against the Minneapolis. That's probably my most recent big item that I was able to fortunately be the winner of.
Oh, cool. I don't think you sent a copy of that, so I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, I'll post it later on whenever you post the blog.
Yep.
I'll post photos of him. And found one in Oklahoma City of him in dress clothes, a tie and suit on and everything. The postcard's not in the greatest of shape, but that being that old and looks like
what year?
He may just. It's got to be middle 1915s to early 1920s, maybe.
Oh, interesting.
A very young Thorpe. You'll remember it. It's the one where you kind of posted a expletive about it to me. You don't remember that?
I have to narrow that down. I use expletives like some people weave tapestry. So
like drinking water.
For Bob's sake, I have to really check my check my vocabulary on the podcast.
And like I said, 1963 Topps Famous Americans 3-panel proof strip that has Thorpe, Alexander Hamilton, and Richard Nixon on.
Yeah, that's a
pretty cool piece.
All right, we got about 2.5 minutes left.
Okay.
We could talk for talk for another hour. But
really,
premier item in your the premier item in your collection, Mike, once again, would be, out of everything you have of Thorpe, what would it be?
I still have to keep his Indian chief writing tablet he received in 1904 when the government issued writing tablet they gave him when he first got there in 1904. He's 16 years old, just a little over 135 pounds, 5'6", mighty mite, and no one knows him. And he hasn't become an athlete yet. That still, it personally belonged to him. That's still got to be my top piece. I mean, I don't know if it can ever be replaced.
And that is his actual notebook he had when he had done it.
Yes. Yeah. Confirmed by his family here in Oklahoma.
110 years ago, Thorpe was carrying that around Carlisle, attending classes, just being a student.
Yep.
That's so interesting. Isn't it amazing?
That's amazing. Truly amazing. Truly amazing.
Well, probably number 2 is his citizenship papers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right, we're down to like a minute, so
okay.
I gotta thank you again for being on, completing the story. It's just an amazing story and an amazing collection that you have, and I really appreciate you spending the time and explaining it to our audience. It's truly a story that needs spoken more often so people become educated on it. Truly amazing. So, Mike, thanks for being on.
I've enjoyed it.
I got to cut you short because we're down to 30 seconds. Joe, there's not much I can hand off to you because I think we're probably more speechless this time than the first time.
That's
listening to everything again.
That's okay.
I know it's a lot of information to digest, and it's just what an incredible story. It's just truly, I'm amazed by it. That's all I can say. Truly amazed by it.
Absolutely.
All right, we're out of time. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll be back next week with another show. Until that time, we'll see you then.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by to listen to another episode here on the Sports History Network. Our podcasters are passionate about uncovering and sharing sports stories from yesteryear. And if you didn't know it already, we have over 30 shows across the network covering all sorts of sports history topics. In fact, here's a glimpse into one of our awesome podcasts here on the network.
Each week, the official Football Learning Academy podcast will take you deep into the history of pro football through interviews with players, coaches, or administrators in the NFL, as well as interviews with Pro Football Hall of Fame selectors, authors, and historians. You'll learn how the game evolved and important moments that shaped the sport into what it is today. And don't miss the Pro Football History Nugget of the Week. Listen to the official Football Learning Academy podcast on the Sports History Network.
How about that? I bet you're super hyped to go listen to that new podcast, right? Well, to learn about this show and all the other podcasts on the network, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Again, that's sportshistorynetwork.com/podcast. Head over there today to find your next favorite sports history podcast.